Let's go ahead and jump in. Welcome, everybody. I'm glad you're able to join us for today's webinar. This is Getting Started with Mylio Photos. We're going to do a brief overview of what it takes to get set up and up and running with the application, and hopefully get you set on a good path for moving forward. So before we get too far into things, I want to introduce myself. I'm Angela Andrew. I'm product evangelist for Mylio Photos. And I am joined today by our customer success lead, JC Figueroa. And he's going to be monitoring our chat and Q&A and answering any questions there, and also interrupting me from time to time if something comes up that I need to answer.
Like this, interrupting like this.
JC and I are both photographers as well as working for Mylio Photos. So we love photography and we want to see you be a success with this software because it can really open up a lot of opportunities for you. So a couple of things to know before we dive into the meat of the presentation. We do have a Q&A pod, so that's the best place to ask specific questions. That gives us a better chance to keep track of them. Things tend to get buried in the chat pod. You're welcome to post there as well, but Q&A is really a great place to post those specific questions. And I know we're going to cover a lot today, so this is being recorded, and I want to make sure you guys know that you can come back and rewatch, or if for some reason your schedule doesn't let you watch the whole thing, you can always catch the rest of it later. We'll try to get that recording sent out to you, I think, by tomorrow, so that will be available if you need it. All right, so hopefully most of you are already familiar with Mylio Photos at least a little bit, but if you're not, we're going to talk a little bit about what the software does and how it can help you. So at its core, Mylio Photos empowers everyday photographers to access a lifetime of photos and videos in one secure and connected library. That is the superpower of Mylio. So a little bit more about that is it lets you turn all of your devices, your computers, your smartphones, tablets, and other storage devices into a system for managing all of your media. Everything gets cataloged in one central library that's accessible on every device, which is really very cool. And for me, that is the best part of Mylio Photos, is that I can get to all of my pictures on any device that I have, no matter where I'm at. A few different points about this is you can fit a very large library onto a small device. We have technology that makes different versions of your photos that fit on different devices. So you can have really small thumbnails, so you can fit a huge library on a small smartphone. And you have smart previews, which are about 5% the size of your original files. So if you need a higher resolution file, those are available to you as well. There are some very powerful search and filter tools inside the program. So that helps you find photos you need when you want them. A photo is only as good as being able to find it and get to it when you want to show somebody. So with our search and filter tools, GPS, face recognition, and more, it lets you get to those memories when you want them. Mylio Photos also offers editing tools. There are several tools built into the software that most people will find sufficient for making their photos look their best. But if you're somebody like me who loves to get in there and pixel edit, it works brilliantly with a wide variety of external photo editing applications like Lightroom, Photoshop, Luminar, and so many more. You can get access to your library from anywhere with no need for an internet connection or cloud data feeds. Pretty cool stuff. And it also helps you protect and back up your media so it's safe in case you have something happen, like your computer gets stolen, your phone gets dropped in a lake. You know, all of those horrible things that can happen. Mylio helps you make sure your pictures are protected so you don't lose them in the case that you have something happen to one of your devices. So let's jump in to getting started with Mylio. The first thing you're going to need to do is set up an account. And one of the questions we get asked quite frequently is, why do I need an account, especially if there's a free trial? Can't I just download the software and try it? Well, the reason we ask you to set up an account is because Mylio is not only an application, it's also a service. So the application is what you download to your computer, your phone, etc. The service is what allows all of those devices to talk together. They authenticate you via your account with Mylio, And that creates a handshake between your devices so you can securely connect and transfer your media between all of those devices. So that's why it's really important to create an account before you download the software. So let's go ahead and take a look at what that looks like. I'm going to jump over to my browser and I'm on the Mylio homepage. So if you start out here, you can either go up to account. If you already have an existing account, this is a great place to go. And you can go down to login. But if you're brand new, I would go to try Mylio Photos, that big button there, and you can create an account and download the software. I already have an account, so I'm going to click on login here at the bottom and go ahead and log into my account and give you a little tour of what is available for managing your Mylio account. So first things first, the download button here. You can have it here up in the menu bar. It's right here in the middle of the page. So those are easy places to go, regardless of which device you're on. Once you're logged in, you can download the software. So if you have several computers you want to talk to each other, simply log in with your account, download the software on each of those devices. You can also manage your plan. Hopefully you never need to delete your account. And you can see which devices you've already connected. Now I'm going to show you how to set up an account from scratch. So that's why right now I have no devices listed. But I've already created my account and I've downloaded the software. So now we can move on to the next step. Go ahead and switch slides here and go into installing the software. Once you've made that download from the website, you're going to go to your downloads folder on your computer and look for one of these files. If you're on a Mac, it's going to be the mylio.dmg. If you're on Windows, it's going to be the mylio_x64 or the _ARM64 file. Double click on those files and walk through the on-screen instructions to install the software. Once you've done that, you can get started setting up Mylio. And this is where we're going to cover some really important stuff. So let me switch over to the app and we're going to walk through the getting started wizard here. So it's going to pop up with a welcome message. Click that next button and then enter your email and password that you use to create your account. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And all right. And that's going to go ahead and get things started. Now it's going to walk you through a series of questions to help you understand what Mylio Photos is doing and what files it creates and where those files need to go. So I'm going to go ahead and jump through a couple of these. I highly recommend that you read these thoroughly though as you're going through them. So let's set up your first device. Your first device ideally is going to be a computer. And we're going to choose where to put our Mylio library folder. So let's go ahead and go to the next screen. And it asks you to choose where your Mylio library folder goes. So let me jump back over here to the presentation and we'll talk a bit about what this is. Mylio library folder is the default location for all of your future imports. What that means is when you go ahead and load in pictures from your camera's memory card, or you want to bring in pictures from your iPhone, this is going to be the folder that by default, Mylio is going to put them into. You can always choose another location for that import, but by default, the Mylio library folder is going to be where those go. Where should that folder be located? That is the big question. So for most people, that's going to be on an external hard drive. And I highly recommend that you get a hard drive that has enough space for you to grow. So take a look at how much media you have and add on a little bit of space extra so you have a place to put those new images. For some people, if you have a desktop computer that has a lot of storage space, you can use a desktop computer for that. But for most people, some sort of external hard drive is going to be best. Now, the next question it's going to ask you is, do you want to use an existing folder or create a new folder? And neither one of these is a wrong answer. If you have a large library and you're ready to go ahead and get that media into Mylio Photos, you'll want to choose an existing folder. One thing to keep in mind when doing that is that for Mylio to catalog a large library can take a lot of time. So you'll just need to be patient as it runs through all of that media. If you're wanting to consolidate your media, so let's say you have folders scattered everywhere with a bunch of different photos and you want to bring them in and get them all in one place, creating a new folder is a great way to do that. Creating a new folder is also a good option. If you're not quite sure how you want to configure Mylio, set up that new folder on an empty external hard drive, and that's going to give you some flexibility in playing with the software before you really commit. So no wrong answers, but an existing folder is for people who already have their media pretty much organized the way they want it. A new folder for pretty much everyone else. All right. So let's jump back over to the software, and I'm going to, for this demo, create a new folder. And go ahead and hit the next button. And it's going to let me choose where to put that folder. I'm going to click on change that location and choose the location from my hard drive. I'm going to go down to this hard drive that I've called Mylio Vault. This is a brand new empty hard drive that I want to use to consolidate my media. And later on, I also want to add stuff where they reside. So if you have things like a Lightroom catalog and you don't want to move those images from where they currently are, you can link folders, but it's also going to mirror those images here on the vault. So I'm going to choose a new folder here, click new folder, and call this my Mylio Photos, and create. You can call your folder whatever you want, and choose open. So now it's showing that this is going to be on volumes, Mylio Vault, which is the hard drive name, and in the folder, my Mylio Photos, and looks good. Go ahead and get that going. And it's setting up Mylio Now. Now, because we added a new folder with nothing in it, our Mylio library is completely empty. So if I go ahead and do that, click the next button, it's going to give me the opportunity to install the sample library. This is completely optional, but if you're just getting started, I highly recommend it because it is a great way to get to know the program. You get to see what a fully organized library looks like and experiment with it. And it's super easy to add and super easy to get rid of when you want to. Literally just a couple of clicks. I'll show you how to do that here in a moment. So let's go ahead and install that sample library and take a look around the application and see what's going on. You have an activity monitor up in the top right corner. You can see the little blue circle around it moving. That means it's installing that sample library. And it's going to walk you through a few extra steps just to get you acquainted with what's going on in the software. So I'm going to go ahead and click done there. The sample library has been installed. If I want to get rid of it, it gives you instructions how to do that right away, but you can just go up to the help menu and choose remove sample library. It really is that simple. It doesn't pollute your library. If you have it intermingled with your own limited images, it's so easy to remove and it doesn't leave lingering things to mix up with your own. So we can go ahead and work with that. And now let's take a look at some of the different views we have in Mylio Photos. We have our All Photos view, which shows everything in your Mylio Photos library. It's going to pull in media that you have from, if you've pulled in media from your phone, from tablets, different folders, different hard drives, everything that you've added is going to show up in this one central location. If you want to view it by the calendar view is a really fun way to explore. So if you find photos, if the way that you look for things is by date, you go, you know what? I know in 2017, I took some great pictures of my dog. You can click into 2017 and kind of dial down to where you want to find your stuff. Another great way to explore is via the map view. And this shows all of your images that have geotags on a map. So for those who go, you know what, I know I took some great pictures when I was in Honolulu. You know what, you can go scroll into Honolulu, click on that, and it's going to pull up all of the pictures that you took in Honolulu. People view is another great way to explore. This lets you find pictures based on who is in those photos. And Mylio's facial recognition does an amazing job at recognizing similar faces, allows you to name those faces, and then it'll keep suggesting those names for similar faces. So for instance, I can go over here to untag. These are photos that have not yet been tagged. I can click onto the batch tagging icon, and it's going to start suggesting different names of people that it recognizes. And it's going to group together like faces. So I'm going to go ahead and exit out of that for now and jump over to albums. Now, albums and folders are similar but different. So folders are going to represent what is actually on your hard drive. So those, if you have folders on your hard drive that say 2017, 2018, 2019, it's going to be the exact same in Mylio. And if you move things between a folder, it physically moves things on your hard drive. Albums are more like a playlist and lets you group things together how you want them without actually moving them. Plus, you can have photos that go into multiple albums. You don't have to have a single photo in just one album. You can have your bird photos here, for instance. Say you grab those while you're on vacation, you can have those in your bird album and in your vacation album. So we have our albums view, our folders view. So here's our sample library, and here's the folders in that sample library, and our dashboard. Now the dashboard is kind of the control center for Mylio. There's a few things that you'll want to pay attention to here. You have your notifications, and that's going to be similar to what you have up here in the top bar. Actions is going to give you some things that you can do with your photos. So you can add media. You can use our Find Duplicates tool, which allows you to remove duplicates, find and remove duplicates from your library. You can add additional devices and tag faces. So it's going to give you a few things that you can do. Devices is going to give you an overview of what devices you've added. So right now I have my MacBook Pro that I'm using and that Mylio Vault that I've added. Library stats gives you information about the pictures in your library. So far we've tagged 11 people. We have 637 different file types. We can see which cameras those images were captured with and so forth. So another great way to locate images. Let's say you captured photos with your D70, and you can click on that and see all of the pictures that were captured with that camera. So it's another great way to explore the images in your library. A few other areas of the software that you should know about is what's up here in this top menu bar. We have our More menu, which lets you access the settings. That's a big one. Our Help menu, I'll go ahead and pull that up. I already showed you where to remove the sample library, but there's a lot of great information here. We have our how-to guide, which is our user manual. It's fully searchable. You can download a PDF. Lots of great information on learning how to use the software. We have a link to join our community, which is a place you can go meet other Mylio Photos users, interact with our team. That's where we post the latest news. We post how-to articles and other fun, inspirational things there. So I hope you'll join us there and check it out. If you have technical questions, the troubleshooting option here will take you to our support. And that is a great place where some of our most technical users hang out, and they are so ready to help other users with any issues that they encounter. It's also monitored by our support team and even several of our developers. Keep an eye on that forum to see what's going on. We have a link to our frequently asked questions. So if you have questions about what language is Mylio in, how much does it cost, and so forth, there are a lot of answers here to those questions that you probably have if you're just getting started. Remove sample library, we already talked about that. If you have a technical question that you aren't able to find support for in the troubleshooting or in the how-to guide, feel free to contact our support team. JC and his team are there to help with anything that you need. Show support options on startup, console. These are some tech options that the support team can help you with if that's something that needs to happen. And then of course about Mylio Photos just tells you a few stats about the software. I'm going to close that for the moment. We talked about notifications. This activities monitor will show you when something is going on with Mylio. So if it's importing images, if it's in the process of syncing, you'll see that blue circle moving around showing that something's happening. And finally, if you're ready to add more pictures, you can choose Add Media. Now, if I go back to—
Angela, I'm sorry, really quick, although I think you're about to say it, that the more menu changes depending on what view you're on.
This is true, it does. So if I go back to the All Photos view and go back up to that More menu, you'll see we have options to sort, add annotations, which these are little overlays, like this little icon that shows that it has GPS tagging here. It lets you hide and show information like that. So feel free to explore this. How you have it set up is very much to your personal taste and what information you want to see at a glance. Now, another menu to be aware of is down here in the bottom right corner, we have our quick actions menu. So let me select a picture and open that up, and you'll see that there's a number of options here. Anything from deleting a file, renaming it, showing it in the folder, all sorts of things. You can also get to that menu by right-clicking on an image. So that's something to keep in mind. Just a few things on navigating the software and finding your way around. So let's go ahead and move through here. We already talked about these different views and the different menus. Is there anything else you would add, JC? Nope. All right. So now let's get to the fun part of adding some photos. I'm going to jump back over to the software and go up to this plus button here in the corner. Now, I created that master Mylio library folder on that empty external drive. Right now, there's nothing in there. Now, I want to add some photos from a different external drive that I have. Let's say I have those folders are also cataloged by Lightroom. I want to leave those folders where they are, but I also want to add that media into my Mylio library. So I'm going to go to Add Media Accessible from this device, and I'm going to go down to this Mylio Pics. There it is, and choose My Amazing Photos. So I have several different images here that I want to add that are already cataloged by another program, so I don't want to move them. So I'm going to choose Open, and then you have options here to link them, copy, or move. I definitely don't want to move them because they're already cataloged by another application. I don't want to copy them because I don't need to make another copy of them. So I'm going to choose to link them and leave them where they are and choose Link Now. And that's going to add that media from its current location and bring those into Mylio Photos. So now if we go over to our folders view, go ahead and double click. And that's a good tip there. If you go in and you are, let's say, buried into several folders down, you can always double click on that top level view and it's going to bring you back to the top level. So here we go. I just added a linked folder with my Mylio Pics, My Amazing Photos. And here's everything coming in. You can see that there's activity happening. So it's in the process of ingesting those images, bringing them into the catalog, and they're starting to populate. So there we have it. That's how easy it is to add media. Now you can add media from several different locations. You can add it from an online service. You can bring in photos that you have on Facebook, Flickr, or Google Photos. You can bring in images that you might have in Photos for Mac OS, old iPhoto libraries, Aperture. And if you want to bring in images from your phone, that's where you're going to want to go ahead and install Mylio Photos on your phone and then walk through the on-screen instructions to add your camera roll to Mylio Photos. So lots of different ways to get your media into the program. And then once it's in the program, it'll sync across to all of those devices that you have. So once you've installed it on your phone, all of these pictures that are adding right now, I'll be able to see on my phone as well. All right. So I just mentioned about installing Mylio on different devices. If you have Windows, Mac, Android, or iOS devices, Mylio Photos will work on just about all of them. Take a look at the system requirements there. We also have more in-depth system requirements listed in our user manual. And we have lots of education resources for you to learn more as you go into getting into Mylio Photos. So we talked a little bit already about that in-app help menu. And that's a great place to start. And it's probably the quickest and easiest place at your fingertips to learn more. So let's just jump back over to the program really quick and take a look. You just click that question mark and there's the manual, community, support forum, and so forth. Now, we also have inside the product manual a quick start guide. And it's going to cover a lot of what we covered here today, but it's going to go into a bit more detail. There's a very handy downloadable PDF. There are some videos that walk you through different steps if you need a little bit more information. So that's a great place to look to just get started. We also have our community, which I mentioned earlier. Great place to get to know the Mylio team, other Mylio users, and get the latest news. Inside our community, we also have a full-length Mylio Photos Fundamentals course. And it is going to cover a little bit about what we covered today, but it goes into much, much greater detail. And it takes you through a lot of the different things you can do with your photos and how to get the most out of Mylio Photos. So if you want to spend a little bit more time to get to know it, the course here is a great place to go. Our support forum, like I mentioned, you can get answers from some of our more technical users and our support team and even some of our developers, those FAQs. And here's a link directly to our support page. However, if you need to contact support, the best way to do it is through the app. That allows them to get access to some of the logs and some stats about your application. So if there's a technical issue, that helps them better diagnose it. And to make it easy so you don't have to try to copy down all of these links, if you want to just scan this QR code here on the right, you can grab a link to a page in our community. So it's an easy way to join the community, and it lists all of these resources. All right. And that brings us to the end of the presentation, and I want to open it up for questions. So JC, do we have any questions in the Q&A pod?
One just came in. Awesome. About the ongoing cost for Mylio.
An ongoing what?
Cost. What does it cost to have this?
That's a great question. So Mylio Photos is $9.99 a month or $99.99 a year. And it's a subscription service. And that subscription is what allows us to continue providing that communication between all of your devices, maintain our servers and things like that. So you have that secure way to sync all of your images. All right. Any other questions? Is that dollars? Yes, and that is dollars. That's US dollars. So if you're in a different country, the price may differ slightly based on things like taxes and fees for your particular region.
And conversion rate, yeah.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. All right, any other questions?
Did you see the question about adding a device?
I did not. Let me go ahead and jump back to that here. And I see that you answered a bunch, so thank you for that, JC.
Yep. Yeah, Robert was asking if you were going to demo how to add a device.
I certainly can show you where to do that. I don't have any devices ready to add right now, but I can show you where in the program how to do that. So what you're going to want to do is go to the dashboard and to devices and click the add button up here. And this is going to give you a list of things that you can add. For most people, that's going to be an external drive. You might want to add a cloud service. Using a cloud service is completely optional. And you can upload your images to those cloud services either encrypted or unencrypted. And that's just an extra layer of privacy if you go with the encrypted option. We also support network accessible storage, so NAS devices. You can add phones or tablets, or you can install Mylio on additional computers. There's no limit to the number of devices that are associated with any account, or any limit to the number of photos that you can bring into your Mylio library. So that subscription fee that we talked about, you can add as many external drives or computers as you want, and as many photos as you want. The price doesn't change. It looks like there's a couple of other new questions here. Should you place videos and photos on 2 different hard drives? Dennis, that is completely up to you. I do not. I keep everything kind of mingled together. But that's a personal choice, and it really depends on how you're working. So if this is your professional device and you're managing photos and videos professionally, you might want to have those in different folders for your own sake. That's, it's up to you, but there's no reason to not have them mingled in the same folder.
Yeah, well, I'll add something to that, if I may. So one thing to consider when you're adding media to Mylio and you're adding vaults is that any device that you designate to be a vault is going to have enough storage to cover all of the media that you're adding to Mylio. In other words, when you tell Mylio, this device, whether it's a computer, it could be your phone, it can be a hard drive, this device is going to be a vault, everything in your Mylio library is going to be copied to that device in its original form, which is a reason why you probably don't want to make your phone a vault because, well, there's lots of reasons why you don't want to make your phone a vault, right? One is limited storage, but also you're more likely to lose your phone than an external hard drive that sits on your desk at home. So keep that in mind. You can organize however you want, but when you designate a device as a vault, it's going to have enough storage for everything you've added to your catalog.
Yes, definitely. All right, Shelly asks, I made folders with photos. How do I make them go in alphabetical order? Great question. Let me show you. I'm going to go here to my folders view, go back up here to the top level. And let me go here into the sample library because I know there's a few in here, and we have scans organized by year, trips, and miscellaneous. If I want those listed in alphabetical order, I can go to the More menu, choose Sort By. Right now it's by date created, and I can instead sort those by name, and now they're in alphabetical order. So that's how you do that. And let's see here. Dennis asks, how do you use a NAS? JC, do you want to take that one? Because you actually have a NAS.
I do
use it. So
yeah,
that'd be a great question for you.
My NAS is currently disconnected, or I would demo it because I'm upgrading the hard drives. So you can add a NAS to Mylio. However, under the current iteration of the app, a NAS requires a host. It requires a computer to be hosting that network attached storage. So all you do is in the dashboard, you go to the Add Devices menu. Angela's going to demonstrate. And then you select NAS. You navigate to that device. She doesn't have one, so she won't be able to navigate to it. But you just simply navigate to that device, show Mylio where that device is, and then click Open. Mylio is going to add that device. It's going to require that you select a folder within the NAS. So it's not going to let you choose the top level of that NAS. So if all your photos are in a folder called Photos and those live in your NAS, you can simply select the Photos folder and Mylio will add that. That network attached storage will become another device in Mylio. It will be listed along with all the other devices. And you'll see what folders have been linked or are correlated to that NAS. And there's more information about this on the manual as well.
Yes. All right, Shelly asks, I made folders and put photos into them. When I was putting a photo into a proper category folder, I made it go into multiple folders. I thought, should I have been using albums instead? Shelly, that's up to you, but if you're wanting a photo to show up in multiple places, albums would be a better choice. If you try to do that with folders, you're going to end up with duplicates of your images. Whereas if you use albums, it's more like a playlist, and you can have the same song in multiple playlists. So you can have the same photo in multiple albums. So it's a really great way to kind of expand what you can do with folders. Albums is very flexible. Folders is a little bit more rigid, especially if you don't want to be creating duplicates of your images.
Yeah, I always talk about albums as being virtual collections, where a folder is the real home of that file. Wherever you put a photo, that's where it's, whatever folder you put a photo in, that's the place where that photo is going to be found. Another big difference between albums and folders is that if you're looking at an album, you have to look at through the application. But if you want to look at a folder, that folder can be seen within Mylio, or you can see it outside of Mylio on your file system, which is one of the great things about Mylio. We don't hide your photos into a proprietary library. Everything is available on the file system. So any organization you do to your folder structure within Mylio is reflected outside of Mylio and vice versa.
Yep. And so Shelly has a follow-up question here. Is there a way to smoothly transfer all those photos from the folders into albums? The best way I would say to do that is if you've already put them into folders, what you can do is go into that folder. Let's go ahead and find one here. And you can select multiple images and then right-click and choose Add to Album. And that's going to let you choose an album or create a new album so you can move multiple images at once. So that's probably the easiest way. So I would do that, and then you can clean up some of those folders and move things around how it fits for what you're trying to do. Anything to add, JC?
There's always the clipboard also. It's another great way.
Clipboard is also pretty cool. So if you grab those images, I have everything here selected, I can grab it and I drag it down to the bottom of the screen. It opens up what we call the clipboard. And then I can move around. So let's go ahead. I want to go back up to a top level folder. Let's say I want to move these images into my Mylio Photos, I can grab these images and then drag them up. And now I've physically moved these on my hard drive. If I did that same thing, let's go ahead and select all of those again. I'm going to put them back into the clipboard. And let's say instead of physically moving them, I wanted to add them to an album. I could go over to my albums and go into, let's even create a new one. So I can click the plus button here and call this black and white. And now I have an empty album. I can grab those images and drag them up into that album. And now I have a new black and white album without physically moving anything on my hard drive. So it's another way that you can move things around within Mylio.
The clipboard is fun.
It is. I really like it. I'm using it more and more. All right. Michael says, I want to remove a device, laptop. How should I prepare to decommission that device? That is a great question, Michael. The first thing I would do is make sure that you have a vault, ideally on an external drive, but it could be on another computer as well. But make sure that vault is fully synced. And then you can remove that device from Mylio via your account and decommission the laptop. Would you have anything there to add, JC?
No, that's really the most important part, is making sure that that device is synced with your other devices. So any photos that only existed on that device, any original version of the photos that only existed on that device have been added somewhere else. Mylio will warn you if you try to remove a device that is the only repository for certain photos. Mylio will warn you and say, hey, you're going to lose content if you remove this device. So there is a safeguard in there, but as Angela said, make sure you have a device designated as a vault, make sure it's fully synced, and then you can remove that device. And you can do it both from the application or from your account page.
True. So you can go here to the dashboard, and let's say I wanted to remove this Mylio Pics. I can click on that device card and scroll down to the bottom and unregister the device.
Yeah. You know, I'm the support guy, so I always have to be the harbinger of bad news. So the one caveat when removing a device is that if you're removing a computer that happens to be the host for a network attached storage device, you won't be able to access the network attached storage anymore. So that's something to consider as you're setting things up.
Good
or
point.
Removing things. And if you need help with that, you can email us at support and we can help you.
So Anne asked, does Mylio provide any backups? Great question. So initially, you're going to have one copy of all of your images in different places. If those images exist somewhere else, and then you also create a vault, the vault can serve as a backup. But what we recommend for most people, especially if you're cleaning up and consolidating your library and moving things around, you're going to want to have at least 2 vaults. And ideally, you're going to want to have 3. So that gets into the 3-2-1 backup scenario where you have 3 copies of your media. 1 is going to be your working copy, 2 are going to be backups. One of those backups is going to be local, meaning it's going to be at the location where you're working. And 1 is going to be offsite. So if you're working at your office, you might have another copy at home, or it might be up in the cloud. So having multiple copies of your images is what makes a backup happen. So by creating multiple vaults and having multiple drives designated as vaults, that does create a backup. So you want to make sure you have at least 2 vaults, and that gives you 2 copies of your image. Now, that protects you against device failure. It'll protect you against device loss. So that's what we're talking about, like you accidentally drop your phone into the lake. What it does not protect you against is user error. Now, there are some safeguards built into Mylio Photos, like when you go to delete a photo, it says, do you really, really, really want to delete this? Because when you delete a photo, it deletes it from all of your devices, including all of those vaults that you have. So it does not protect against accidental loss and user error. So that's something to pay attention to. Yeah. If that's a big concern for you, I highly recommend a system backup as well. So for me on a Mac, that means I use Time Machine. Mac and Windows users can use an offsite backup service called Backblaze. I use that as well for my offsite backup. Those are additional services outside of what Mylio Photos offers, but they're, good measures to take if you're concerned about protecting your media. Anything to add to
I
that?
will mention, I'm sorry, Angela, I will mention that if you accidentally delete something in Mylio on your computer, it just goes to the trash can on your operating system. So you can recover it. You will have to empty the trash can before it's truly gone. But depending on your setup and how you have your system set up, or how often you empty that trash can or that recycle bin in Windows, those photos could be gone. So there is a bit of a safeguard, but absolutely be careful, like Angela mentioned.
Definitely. All right, so Dennis says, if I already have folders created in Windows Explorer, how do I keep the same folder structure in Mylio? That's pretty easy. All you do is, like I added those linked folders, you would just go up to the Add Media button, Add Media Accessible from this device, navigate to those folders on your hard drive, and choose the option to link them. So let me see here. Do I have another folder of pictures that I can get to?
I'll add to this while you're looking for an additional folder. So if you link a folder, Mylio is not going to move the photos from where they are, but it's going to wash that top level folder, and any changes that you make within that folder are going to be reflected in Mylio. If you copy or move a folder, that is a one-time import. So Mylio will, let's say that you have a folder with trips, and inside that folder you have, you know, Galapagos and Mexico and Europe and the moon, and those are the 4 trip subfolders. If you import that top level folder, Mylio will retain the folder structure. It'll bring in all of that folder structure, but it'll be a one-time import. It won't go back to changes you make on Explorer. Those new folders will be copied whatever you designated them to go. For example, that Mylio library folder that you set up initially. Same with a move. When you move a folder, you move it into the Mylio library and from one path in your computer to another. So that's the difference between the two. But the folder structure is always preserved, regardless of which way you bring them in. It's just whether you are linked to a folder that you continue managing outside of Mylio, or whether you move or copy that folder and then you manage that folder in Mylio. You'll still see that folder in File Explorer in your file system, whether it's Explorer or Window or Finder, but the relationship's slightly different.
Awesome. All right, so the next question is, how do you make sure your library is fully synced? So over here, when you first start up Mylio Photos, this panel over here on the right is collapsed. This is called the info panel. You can click to expand it, and here we have our sync panel. And I encourage you to expand the devices and the activity sections, and this is going to give you a better picture of what's going on with your Mylio Photos library. And it's showing me that right now everything is fully synced. I have my 2 drives, my internal on my computer, the external drive with my pictures, and my vault drive. Everything is synced. What these lines mean is we have all of the thumbnails are synced. Some of the previews are synced, and this is because this drive is auto-optimized, meaning it's not bringing over all of the previews for all of the images, because that would take up a fair bit of space. And it's not bringing over any originals. So those originals are protected either down here on the Mylio Pix drive, and you can see that some of them are still syncing here to the vault. That yellow line means that it still needs more photos. So it's in the process of copying images from here and bringing them down here to the vault. So this is where you can check to see what's going on. You can also take a look here at the device cards here in the dashboard under devices and see what has a check mark. And if you click on this little help icon, there's going to be some other icons that you might see. So check mark means in sync. The down arrow means it's bringing in files. The up arrow means it's sending files. And if they're grayed out, it means that they need to sync.
Angela, I can demo this with a whole bunch of devices if you want, but how about we take some of the other questions, and then if we have time,
absolutely. Sounds good. All right. So Shelly says, I cannot grab multiple photos at once. I tried click and hold, control and shift, etc. I'm on a computer. Can you help me figure out how to do it? Sure. So what you're going to want to do is make sure that you're in grid view. If you're in single image view, even with the film strip, this is not going to let you grab multiple images. It's just going to jump from image to image, even if you hold down the shift key. You want to make sure that you're in grid view, and then you should be able to select the first image. If you, so you'd want to hold down the shift key to select a range, and you should be able to grab multiple images that way.
And that film strip is something you can turn on and off.
Yeah, you don't have to have the film strip on. So let's go ahead and grab one of these images. If you go up into the view menu, here's the option to turn off the film strip, or we can turn it on. It's completely up to you if you like having that option there. It lets you scroll through other images that are in that particular view that you're looking at. And it's just another way to navigate through your library. All right, and then Anne asks, will Mylio get confused if you organize photos outside of Mylio using Explorer Finder, and does that make sense? It really depends on where you're moving them. JC, do you have any feedback on that?
Yeah, the short answer is Mylio will not get confused as long as it's a folder that Mylio is aware of, right? So as I was mentioning before, if you copy a folder, that folder that you copy now becomes part of the Mylio library. So the photos that you copy are going to be in a different location in your file system than the original source. If you link a folder, that's a folder that Mylio is completely aware of. So it's a relationship of whether Mylio knows that the folder exists or not. And the best way to know what folders Mylio is aware of is by looking on the dashboard and looking at the device that you're on. Do you mind showing that really quick, Angela?
What was that again?
Go to the dashboard and go to devices.
Okay.
And then go to your main computer and click on link folders.
There we go.
So this lists all the folders that Mylio is currently aware of. Notice that the ones in the middle are not really linked, and Mylio is just giving you the option because these are common folders that people want to add to their library. But right now, Angela has 3 folders that Mylio is aware of. There's the Mylio library folder that she created, called My Mylio Photos, the sample library, which is shared content, so it's not really in her computer, and then My Amazing Photos, which is the other folder that she imported. If she went on the file system, Windows Explorer or the Finder, and made changes there, Mylio will scan for those changes and reflect them back in Mylio. The only caveat that I give you is that if you're going to make a lot of changes outside of Mylio, like, if you're going to delete hundreds of folders or move thousands of photos around, do it slowly and let Mylio catch up. If you make a significant change and Mylio comes back and starts scanning your directory and realizes that there's a lot of changes, it's going to take a while for that to get synchronized, and it's going to take a while for those changes to be migrated to all your other devices. So keep that in mind, that Mylio is a network ecosystem. It's a distributed system. So anything that happens in one device has to be replicated to others. So if you make lots of significant changes all at once, then the synchronization of those changes is going to take a little bit longer than if you do it more methodically and kind of in a slower manner.
Yep. All right. So did you want to go ahead and share your screen?
Yeah. Was that the last question? Yeah.
That was the last question in the Q&A. Is there anything I'm missing in the chat? Take a look.
I'll go ahead and share my screen. Here's my Mylio library. And this is my personal library. And you'll notice that I have a lot of devices as part of my system. The devices that are already online are showing that they're already in sync. But there's a few devices that are not online. So my laptop is saying, hey, I have 137 photos that other devices won. So if I went ahead and I turned on my iPad right now and I launch Mylio on it, that device is going to become, I don't want to update my OS right now, Apple. Thank you. Notice that now the iPad is online and the files that didn't exist on it before are becoming available. I can click here and I can say, hey, show me which files I have to link. And if I were to show my sync panel, I can click any one of these files and Mylio would say, okay, so this file exists in all these places. The original version is on all of your vaults, but the iPad wants the thumbnail version of it. So I'm gonna go and send that there now. Same with my Pixel phone. If I went ahead and turned my Pixel phone on, oh, it's not charged. I don't use this phone very often. I can't turn that one on, but I can turn my iPhone on. And what's going to happen is I've taken a few photos with my phone recently. So those photos are probably not in Mylio. So my iPhone is going to have a few photos that it's going to want to share. So now that the iPhone is online, it probably has some photos that other devices don't have. I think I just took a photo of my desktop before we started the webinar. So that photo from the iPhone is going to see the laptop now wants to download one photo. That photo is coming, is that photo I was saying, from my desktop. That photo I took earlier today wasn't part of Mylio, now it is. So that photo went from my phone and it's now being shared to all the other devices. Notice my vaults are all downloading that new photo as an original because that's how they're designated. So my vaults always download both the thumbnail, the preview, and the original version, where other devices, depending on their setup, like my Windows machine, only gets thumbnails. Same with my iPad Air, it only gets thumbnails. So that is how syncing works when you have a lot of devices. And you can look at just one selection like I'm doing now, or you can look at the entire library. So if you ever want to be able to tell if any particular photo is on any of your devices, you can just select that photo and the sync panel will tell you where that photo exists and at what resolution, at what version. So this photo of the whale shark exists in my laptop both as an original, a preview, and a thumbnail. But on Amazon, it's only the thumbnail and the preview. And on my iMac, it's only the thumbnail and the preview. But obviously, my vaults have the original for it. So that's how you can tell whether an individual photo is synced or your entire library is in sync. And you'll notice that the only thing not in sync for my library right now is my Pixel phone. It wants 2 originals and 138 thumbnails. So as soon as the battery charges, it came up, and I turn it on, and I launch Mylio, that device will go from being offline to being online and connected. So now it's available. In a second, it'll switch to being connected. You'll see these 2 little cables here will come together, and the thumbnails will start moving. So there. The little cables are connected now, and Mylio's telling me, okay, I'm moving files to that device. So that's syncing.
Awesome. We have another question from Dennis. He says, which do you recommend? One system folder in an external drive designated as a vault, or an internal drive on the desktop? And then second question, should you have a library folder on the external hard drive and a system folder on the desktop? So you can move your Mylio system folder. I keep mine on my internal hard drive. The only reason you'd want to, in most cases, the only reason you'd want to move your system folder would be if you have a permanently connected drive, like you're on a desktop computer that's not moving around, and that drive is always connected. You can move the Mylio system folder to that external drive or to a secondary drive within that desktop computer. For most people, you're not going to want to do that, because if you're out and about, let's say you go and work down at the coffee shop and you want to pull up your photos, if the drive that system folder is located on is at home, well, Mylio is going to open and be like, I don't know where anything is. So you have to have that drive with your Mylio system folder permanently connected for Mylio to run.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. It really depends on what device you're using and the purpose of that device. If it's a device that you intend to be portable in any way, like a laptop, then the system folder should be part of the internal storage of that device. And you just configure the device quality settings to maximize the use of the internal storage. And keep in mind, you can temporarily bring the original version of your photo or even a preview version of the photo to any device. With any photo, you can do it manually. Mylio will do it automatically. If you try to edit a photo and all you have is the thumbnail, Mylio will look at your other devices and go, hey, anybody, I need a preview of this photo before I can edit it. And it'll temporarily download that photo. Mylio has something called device storage cache, where it manages that storage and it automatically saves and deletes versions of your photos in that cache, as long as the original is saved elsewhere. So I think I got too into the weeds there, but
I think it was good information though. Dennis, let us know if that answered your question. I think that covered it, but let us know if you need any clarification. And then Michael is referencing back to what you were just describing with sync. He says you have to be on all photos view to do what JC is describing.
No, you can do it for most views. For example, if I'm in my folder view and I want to know whether all the photos from my dive camera folder are in sync, I can just select that folder, and now it's saying, okay, this folder has 143 photos within it. You know, there's different subfolders, but within that top level folder, there's 143 photos. I can see that there. It just depends on the level of granularity that you want, but you can look at a folder, you can look at an album and see whether the photos from that album are in sync on different devices, or to what degree they're in sync. You can even look at a person. So I can go here and I can like go to the letter M and find my daughter's photos. There's my daughter, Madeline. And Mylio knows that there's over 2,000 photos of Madeline. And now it's telling me, okay, this is what different versions of those Madeline photos you have on every device. So no, it's not limited to the old photos view. I can even go into the group of photos for Madeline and select any one photo, and I'll still get that syncing information. Just make sure you're looking at the top here for selection versus library, right? If I select a group of photos, now I have 12 photos selected versus the library.
Excellent. And Dennis said, yes, that answers this question. He said, thank you. So glad that was helpful, Dennis.
He also said that we're great, and I agree with him.
He did say that.
We're amazing.
I'm trying not to toot our own horns too much. All right, let me take a quick look here at the chat. Doesn't look like we have anything new in the chat either. If you have any last minute questions, go ahead and pop them into the Q&A. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and wrap up. I want to thank all of you for coming today. I hope it was helpful and that you got an idea of what you can do with Mylio Photos and what to do moving forward. It's a great program with so much flexibility. And one thing I want to stress when you're just getting started with this program is don't feel like you have to do everything and learn it all at once. It's a big program with a lot to learn, so take it in those bite-sized chunks. Check out that quick start guide in the Mylio Photos Fundamentals course and the community, and step through it and learn as you go. And just because Mylio Photos does something, let's say you don't really think about finding things by where they're located on the map, don't feel like you have to geotag everything. Work with it in the way that your mind works and what works best for you, and you'll be very happy with how it goes. Any last minute thoughts, JC?
No, I just want to encourage people to go to the community and to the forum because there's so much information there. The community has a lot of quick tip videos. We do a lot of photo sharing. You know, we have a section, for example, for underwater photos, and there's people posting underwater photos. There's nature photography, bird photography. So it's not just a place to learn about Mylio. It's a place to enjoy photography in many different ways. So I do encourage people to go there. And then the forum is a great place to just see how other people are using Mylio. There's a section where people describe their Mylio setup. There's a lot of users from all over the world. So, you know, if you're a particularly, if you use a particular language like French or German, we have a lot of other language speakers in the forum that will communicate with you in that language. So really, really recommend both of those resources.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, everyone, for coming. And We are going to be doing this Getting Started webinar every couple of weeks. The replay will be available for you if you want to watch it again. And I encourage you to check out the other events listed in our community. We're also doing weekly coffee breaks. Those are informal get-togethers. It's a Zoom meeting as opposed to a webinar like this, which is a little bit more formal, where we can see each other face-to-face. We typically have a guest who gives some sort of in-depth on a certain area of the program, or even external programs, inspiration, things just general photography related. So I hope you'll join us for those as well. They are scattered in different times to accommodate different time zones, and they're a lot of fun. So I hope to see you there. But until next time, thanks again, and have a great day.